Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to Season 2 of the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Kayla Smith, CEO of the Hormone Puzzle Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching, creator of the Hormone Puzzle Method, an infertility warrior, two-time boy mom, and women's health expert. This podcast is for women struggling with infertility, painful periods, terrible PMS, or really just any symptom of hormone imbalance that they are ready to eliminate for good. Tune in weekly as we interview amazing experts in the fields of women's health, breaking down those hormone walls, nerding out on nutrition, and having way too much fun. Whether you're beginning your journey or you've been struggling for years, we're going to finally help you put those pieces of your hormone puzzle back together so that you can get pregnant and eliminate those pesky symptoms for good. Are you ready? This season is packed with even more expert guests sharing groundbreaking knowledge, giving you that jolt of energy that you so desperately need, sending you lots of virtual hugs, and inspiring you to take your fertility into your own hands and make that baby. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now let's get started on your road to transformation. I am so excited to welcome you to today's guest, JJ Virgin, a triple board certified nutrition expert and fitness Hall of Famer. JJ Virgin is a passionate advocate of eating and exercising smarter. JJ helps people stay fired up and healthy as they age, so they feel the best they have ever felt at age 40 plus. JJ is a prominent TV and media personality whose previous features include co-host of TLC's Freaky Eaters, 2 years as the on-camera nutritionist for weight loss challenges on Dr. Phil, and numerous appearances on PBS, Dr. Oz, Rachael Ray, Access Hollywood, and The Today Show. She also speaks regularly and has shared the stage with notables such as Seth Godin, Lisa Nichols, Gary Vee, Mark Hyman, Dave Buettner, and Mary Morrissey. JJ is the author of 4 New York Times bestsellers, The Virgin Diet, The Virgin Diet Cookbook, JJ's Sugar Impact Diet, and JJ Virgin's Sugar Impact Diet Cookbook. Her latest book, Warrior Mom, 7 Secrets to Bold, Brave Resilience, shows caregivers everywhere how to be strong, positive leaders for their families while exploring the inspirational lessons JJ learned as she fought for her own son's life. JJ hosts the popular Ask the Health Expert podcast with over 8 million downloads and growing. She regularly writes for Rodale Wellness, Mind Body Green, and other major blogs and magazines. JJ is also a business coach and founded the premier health entrepreneur event and community, the Mindshare Summit. Visit www.jjvirgin.com for hundreds of free recipes and resources, plus state-of-the-art programs, products, and plenty of support to help you build your dream life. On today's show, we are talking about sugar, food intolerances, and what it takes to be a warrior mom. Now, without further ado, I would love to welcome JJ to the show. JJ, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right. I'd love to just hear a little bit more about you. Can you tell us your story of how you started working in health and wellness?
You know, the reality is I've always been working in health and wellness.
Right.
I mean, granted, I'm an OG at this point. However, literally, I still remember I grew up right outside of Berkeley, California, where I think some of the first health food stores started. It was farm to table. And although my mom came from the Midwest and was like the casserole queen with Durkee's fried onions and creamy soups from Campbell's, and tuna, ick.
Yes.
Anyway, just shows what you can survive, right? So I literally, when I was 12, kind of rebelled against all of what she was doing. And just like any rebellious teenager, but my rebellion took forms of being like going after being super healthy and learning everything I could about nutrition, which meant going to a library. I don't even know if people know what those are anymore, but going to one of those and finding nutrition texts and going to the health food store. And health food stores back then were really funky. Like it is not Whole Foods at all.
Right.
It's, it's like Sprouts and Kefir and all this stuff that was considered crazy, like crazy health nuts. I mean, you don't even hear about health nuts anymore because it's just who you are. So that's where I started. And at the time, I also was my whole dream was to be a Broadway musical theater actress. So I was taking dance class, and my dance teacher had me start teaching dance. Then I started teaching calisthenics. That was the days of aerobics and jazzercise. So I was one of the first aerobics teachers, then the first personal trainer. And when I went off to college, I went off as a theater actress on a acting scholarship, but it seemed like everyone was studying in the theater department to become a waitress. And I thought that's really dumb. So I was at UCLA. I switched over to the English department, which, helped me a ton when you think about it. Like at the time I was like, well, I might as well just learn how to write. And then from that, I graduated and went on to grad school in biomechanics, exercise phys, and doctoral school in nutrition and aging. And away we go. So it's kind of like always been the thing that I loved the most. And a lot of the time I also was catering my way through college, and I've had a couple healthy catering companies too. So you sort of pull in everything that you've done, right? The writing, the acting, the cooking, the dancing, it all fits in.
Yes, I love that story. And for sure, I think we all do that. We pull from things we've learned in the past and kind of pull it into our career.
Yes. I've heard it called research and development. And I think that's important for whatever we're doing when you feel like, what the heck was that distraction? Well, probably wasn't when you get down to it.
Exactly. And you just wrote a book called Warrior Mom, and I would love to hear, what does it mean to you to be a warrior mom?
I think every mom will get this because, once you're a mom, and I remember still walking down the street, I was walking down an alley in Santa Monica, California, and two kind of, scary looking guys were walking the other way. And I remember just thinking, I was pregnant. I was thinking, I will take both you out in a second. It was like, Don't you dare come near me and my baby, And I just think there's something that the minute you get pregnant, it's like you're the big mama bear and you're going to protect your cubs no matter what. That got really tested for me. I mean, I always was that mom, as I think all of us are. But when my sons were 15 and 16, when my 16-year-old was the victim of a hit and run, literally got hit by a car going 40 miles an hour while he was crossing the street and left for dead in the street. And, that turnaround and bringing him back from, a place where the doctors literally told us to let him die, I think was where I really kind of embraced warrior mom completely. Right.
Yes. And thank God your son is alive and okay today. So
that took a village and a super strong vision. And I often look at that. When I was 30 years old, I had an amazing mentor who was going to help me become successful in business. What I didn't realize is that she was going to really be my mindset coach, because for her, and this is the reality, whether you want to be successful in your relationships, your career, your health, it all starts with your mindset. Everything is created twice. First, you have to see it in your mind, and you really have to see it in your mind to believe it. So she trained me on all that. She trained me the only limitations were the limitations in my mind. And so when my son got hit and this doctor said, well, there's, my son was listening to the doctor and said maybe a 0.25% chance he'd make it. And the doctor said that sounds about right. My son had grown up with me too. We both were like, well, that's not zero. We'll take those odds. Let's go.
Right.
And, I just made it my focus. And I think so much in life are the questions that you ask. And my question was never like, how do I save my son? How do I get my son to survive? My question was, how do I get my son to be better than before the accident? How do I get him to be 110%? It's been an 8-year process to get to that point where I'd say most of the time it really wasn't looking good, but I just never let that enter my mind. I just solely held on to that vision and to this idea that the only limitations are the limitations in your mind.
I love that story. And every time I hear it, it gives me goosebumps. And I feel like I did similar things. They told me I couldn't get pregnant and I would need to do an ART procedure because I was 36. And I said, nope, I'm not taking that. And I did everything I could and ended up having my last at 40. So if I had listened to those doctors, that would not have happened.
Yeah. And remember, you're getting an opinion. That is what you're getting. You're not getting a fact. There are some facts. Fact number 1, if you are pregnant, you're pregnant, right? That's cut and dry. Fact number 2, if you die, you're dead. But in between those, there's a whole lot of gray. And so all you're getting is an opinion and someone's best opinion with their, shades of gray in it. So when, I took my son to he was taken airlift to the hospital in Palm Springs, California. Most of the patients they saw in that situation were 80 years old. Now, if he was 80 years old with a severe traumatic brain injury, a torn aorta, and, multiple fractures, 13 of them, and road rash all over, hey, they were probably right. But at 16, it's a whole different story. So remember, you're getting an opinion. And I also believe that so much of what we do is just based on, do we believe that it can happen? So, put yourself there, as Joe Dispenza says, put yourself in your future self and just live as if, right?
Yes, for sure. And so let's talk about that. How do we develop a positive, resilient mindset?
So I love the work of Carol Dweck from Stanford, who talks about a growth versus a fixed mindset. And this whole idea that your mindset is a muscle. So here's a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset said, oh my gosh, my son got hit by a car. This happened to him. The growth mindset, this happened for him. And how do we make this the best experience that could possibly be for him and for the family? Now, I'm not saying that's easy. And one of the things my mentor taught me early on is don't wish it was easier, make yourself stronger. When you're faced with this, the first 24 hours, I was in a complete freak out state of shock. And then it was kind of that moonstruck snap out of it moment. And I was like, all right, you need to step up because he can feel your energy. And so this change of your mindset, which I ultimately believe will determine the entire trajectory of your life. I know that my time at 30 years old, my 6 months with K. Smith changed not only the trajectory of my life, but of course my children's life. And then so many people who followed the story and realized that they could also question authority, that they could also take on the only limitations in your mind, that they also realized that they are stronger than they think. But it takes you taking that on, right? And doing it every single day. Everything around us, the forces are conspiring to pull us down. We are like, those crabs in the crab pot that you try to crawl out and apparently all the other crabs pull you down. Well, you look at the news, all the negativity, all of the stuff going on. If you are in that, you'll stay down. However, all of these things I'm talking about are free. And they're simple things like having a morning gratitude practice that you hear about. And if you can put this into practice, which literally means if you can pull out a journal in the morning and write down at least 3 things you're grateful for, which if you could pull out a journal, there's 1. If you woke up, there's 2. If the light is on, there's 3. I mean, it's easy to find them. Just start small. But those things, then you just move on from there and continue to do this and continue to push your limits. I do remember when my mentor first started teaching me this stuff, and she said, the only limitations are the limitations in your mind. I thought that is the most ridiculous statement. That is like crazy ridiculous. I don't believe you. Like how, of course there are limitations, right? And then she said, there is no right or wrong. There just is. And I'm like, well, of course there's right or wrong. Then you really dig into that. And I also love Stoic philosophy. And you go, well, wait a minute. Actually, everything she said was truer to me now than when I first heard it.
I love that. Well, talk to us a little more about your book. Tell us what was the preface of writing it, and what is one thing you want us to take away from reading it?
So for that book, it wasn't the book I ever wanted to write. However, my agent when I wrote that book, so when I was publishing The Virgin Diet, literally a couple weeks before my book launch was supposed to start, Grant got hit by the car. And I launched that book bedside with my son in a coma, talking to my son, telling him what was going on, because I truly believed he could hear everything I said. And I found out later he absolutely could. And so I didn't ever want to write this book because I'm a weight loss book writer. I'm a diet book writer, although I approach diets very differently. I don't approach diets in a way that I think people think of them, and we should talk about that. But when you write a diet book, if they don't like your diet, they don't like your diet. When you write a book that is about your life, your experience, your children, your family, your vulnerabilities, and they don't like it, they don't like you, right?
Right.
And it's a whole different story. And I'm also sharing things about my family, and I had to really decide what was mine to be able to share. However, when I was going through that, because I was so busy, I really narrowed my focus down at that point to making sure I was doing everything, first off, to be there for my son and save his life and get him to 110%, and then to make sure this book went so that I could pay for it. Mm-hmm. Anything else was off the table. So I was communicating every day as to what was going on Facebook, because I couldn't take the time. My texts were blowing up. My voicemail was full. I mean, I just didn't have the time to do that. So I just once a day communicated on Facebook. Well, it was interesting what happened. First of all, I had some complete haters who said horrible, mean things about me, which I hope everybody listens and realizes that if you want to go out there and make an impact in the world, you're going to have haters who say horribly mean things about you.
Yes.
And it is what it is. However, I also had people coming in and saying, thank you so much. I was telling people what we were doing to help pull them out of a traumatic brain injury and get them out of a coma, help reduce the inflammation. I was telling all that stuff, and people were using it, and other lives were getting saved and changed. And you know what? If I have 100 haters and I change and save one life, it was worth every bit of that. And so my agent was like, you have to write the story for the impact that it will have. And so it was a lot of back and forth, and I agreed to do it. And that's why I really wrote it. It's interesting that diet books are easier books to write. They're easier books to promote. But people really know me more now for the story. And you know, in all of my books, the first thing I always start out with is mindset. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, if you want to get better at life, the Warrior Mom book, whether it's losing weight or making more money or having a better relationship or being a better mom, the Warrior Mom book will help you with all of those things. And they'll help you be better at the Virgin Diet, the Sugar Impact Diet, and all those other things, right?
For sure. For sure. And even, you know, my ladies who are going through infertility, which many of the people listening to this show are, I start with mindset always, because that mindset is going to carry you through this hard journey you're walking through infertility. So
if you don't have the mindset, if you do not believe that you are going to be able to get pregnant and carry a healthy child, it's not going to happen. It's that simple. You must start with that belief. You must see that pregnancy so clearly. You must see that child so clearly. I remember before both my pregnancies, I had already seen my kids. In fact, before I got pregnant, I so clearly saw that I was going to have two boys right in a row. And honestly, on my second boy, Bryce, I had no idea how he even got in there. I had sex like once when I was nursing, you know, I'm like, how did that happen? But I'd so clearly said, I'm going to have two boys, right? I saw them as little boys. I saw them growing up. And that's what you have to put in there. You have to see it every day. Mm-hmm. I love the Wayne Dyer. You have to, you know, you'll see it when you believe it. Well, you see it first in your mind's eye. You see it first with that belief, right?
Right. Oh, I love that. For sure. Well, we are going to take a short break, and we're going to hear a word from our sponsors, and we're going to come back in, and I want to dive into why you do diets differently and talk about sugar and food intolerances. We will be right back. Hey y'all, it's Coach Kayla here. I hope you are loving this episode as much as I am. We will be back in just a minute, but first, a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Hormone P.U.Z.Z.L.E Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching. Whether you're struggling to get pregnant with pesky hormone symptoms, or you're working to build a career in the fertility and women's health space, we have you covered. Visit our website at www.coachkayla.com bestsellers.com to learn more on how we can help you. Text the keyword fertility to 615-257-8855 for your free fertility meal plan. Text the keyword hormone to 615-257-8855 for your free cycle syncing quick start guide. Text the keyword fertility coach to 615-257-8855 to get a copy of our course catalog and to learn more on how you can become a certified fertility coach or add fertility coaching to an already existing wellness practice. Text the keyword club to 615-257-8855 to learn more about joining our Hormone Puzzle membership club. Welcome back, JJ. Thanks for being here.
Sure.
All right. Now let's dive into a little bit of practical tips. I've heard you say you do diets differently. I think you said that earlier. So let's dive into that. What does that mean?
Well, I think we really have to look at diets right now. And, I thought about this because I've been doing this for years. Like 25 years ago, I came up with the idea that your body's not a bank account, it's a chemistry lab. And that food, along with lifestyle, are powerful information. They can make the difference between you losing weight or gaining weight, and having cravings, having great energy, all of that. And so when I wrote the Virgin Diet and the Sugar Impact Diet, I did not write them. I had to call them diets because the publishers were like, they won't understand what else it is. I mean, that's what people know, but they're written very differently. And it is because I have a different definition for a diet. Now, if you look up diet, there's two real clear definitions. One definition is just the way someone would eat all the time. Maybe their like daily life, they just eat a paleo style diet. That's how they eat. Then there's also that diet that's something that you do short-term therapeutically to either learn something about your body or get a result. Maybe you need to heal your leaky gut. Maybe you need to balance your blood sugar and become insulin sensitive again. So I look at diets. I think we need to have another word for how you eat every day. And I wish I could think of that word. I keep putting it out there to the universe. Someone come up with this word because if you call it all a diet and then people say, well, diets don't work. I'm like, yes, diets do work. They work because what they're doing is giving you information that you can decide works for you or doesn't and pull into your daily eating plan. Let's say that you go on, I'll give you an example. I did way back when a raw foods vegan diet. I nearly had to be hospitalized. Didn't work for me. What did I learn from that? That doesn't work for me. I do way better when I eat clean animal protein too. And if I eat a high carb, low fat diet, I did that too. I've tried everything. So I was the original biohacker, I swear. So way back when I tried eating 6 meals a day, super low protein, super low fat, high carbs. It was a nightmare. I was eating all the time, always hungry, had trouble losing weight. I was working out hours every day. And I am, at the time I was like 23% body fat. Now I'm about 13%. I'm 30 years older. So go figure. I exercise less, I eat more. So it's made me realize, okay, we have to look at diets differently because it isn't that diets don't work. It's that we're not using them correctly. And so what we want to think of is, you have something that you want to figure out. Like for me, the Virgin Diet is helping people figure out their hidden food intolerances so they can figure out which foods work for them and which foods don't. If you're suffering from things like any autoimmune conditions, any gut issues, skin problems, joint pain, energy and fatigue, food cravings, or just you can't lose weight, it's a great, and I think should be the starting point. And so what happens there is the first thing that you want to do before you do any of these things is you want to get so clear on your future self and your why. You want to see where you want to be, and you actually want to live as if right there. Feel yourself right into that. Because if you're sitting here over going, I've got like bloated belly and belly fat, I'm tired, my skin's broken out, and you just feel that way, and that's your identity, you'll keep treating yourself that way. But if you see yourself with clear skin, fit and healthy, where you want to be. In fact, so much so that take a picture of that body that is the right body for you, because your body type, my body type, we're all different. And then put your head on it. See yourself there. Feel yourself. What does it feel like to feel that way? So super important. And then you're going to start adding before you take away, which is very different than what people teach, right? So let's just think about adding more non-starchy vegetables, adding in more fiber, adding in clean protein, adding in healthy fats, adding in fluid in between meals, water, green tea, coffee. And then once you've got that, eating by the plate that has healthy protein, clean protein, healthy fats, fiber from non-starchy vegetables, and loads of non-starchy vegetables, little bit of low carbs. Then you start with, okay, let's do a little detox and reset and pull out the most common foods that could be creating problems. They may or may not be all the ones that are causing problems for you. Some people, there's only a couple, but you don't know till you pull them out and recheck. We could do a test, but what I found is the very best test is how your body responds. And not all tests are going to show that. So you pull out gluten, dairy, eggs, corn, soy, peanuts, and then sugar and artificial sweeteners because of what they do to the gut. And you give yourself 3 weeks where you swap in other foods, and probably you'll like the new foods better. So it's not a matter of like, you've been used to eating pasta every night. Now all of a sudden we're going to tell you that you have to eat a salad instead. We're going to give you a different, if you're eating pasta, let's do some spaghetti squash pasta, some lentil pasta. We'll shift things around to give you a better option of a swap. After that, you go back and you try one by one these food categories. How does dairy do for you? What happens when you eat gluten? So that you can connect the dots yourself and design a diet, an eating plan that will work for you. Once I did the Virgin Diet, I realized that the biggest question I got asked was about sugar. And to be honest, if you were going to make one dietary change, it would be getting sugar out. And the crazy thing is most of us don't think we're eating that much sugar, but sugar sneaks into the most ridiculous things. If you're buying a green drink, check the label. So many of those are loaded with fruit so that they actually taste good. So, you can have, I think it's Naked Juice, their green machine has 44 grams of sugar in it. It has more sugar than a soda.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it is so, and the challenge is people are going, oh, I just had it this morning. One of my girlfriends was like, I'm going to do a juice cleanse. I go, no, you're not. No, we're not going to hijack your blood sugar and wreck everything. We're going to make sure you're getting protein and healthy fats, because the reality is you can live without carbohydrates, but you can't live without fat, protein, and water. So let's make sure you're getting what you need. I'm not saying it's great to do that. We want to have a little bit of fruit and a lot of non-starchy vegetables, but I'm not a fan of juice. If you're going to do a green juice, make sure it's really just vegetables. A little lemon juice would be fine, and add some chia seeds or some fiber into it. So that's the basics of this thing is go through, find your new normal, detox. With Virgin Diet, you're also healing your gut. Find your new normal. Feel like what feeling good really feels like. And then go in and start to check in on these foods and go, how do I feel? What's my energy like? What's my weight? Did I gain weight here? How's my skin looking? Gas and bloating, joint pain. Did it trigger any antibody response if you're doing your testing? Any of that kind of stuff. And if you've got an autoimmune disease, dairy, gluten, soy are out anyway. So
exactly.
Right. And then you go through and then you go to the next. After that, you really start to focus on sugar because it is its own beast.
For sure. Right. And I love that you said all of this, because this is exactly where I start with fertility clients. I help them get on a clean, whole food, balanced nutrition diet. I teach them how to learn their food intolerances and get sugar out of their life. And so it's
perfect.
Maybe you're not a fertility expert. You just talked all about fertility diet.
Awesome. Well, and here's the thing, all of people come to me and go, oh, can you help me? I need more energy. And I'll go, well, and then I find out they're eating sugar and they're not sleeping well. And I'm like, you don't need more energy. You just need to clean up your diet and go to sleep. So whatever the health challenge is, you owe it to yourself first. First, fix your fork, man. Like first, fix what's on the end of your fork, fix your stress, fix your sleep, right? Those are the key things. If nature's smart, if you're all stressed out, and you can create stress by eating a crappy diet. Mother Nature doesn't go, hey, this is a perfect time for you to get pregnant while you're eating a bunch of garbage and stressed out and not sleeping.
Exactly.
That's not going to happen.
No. So let's dive in a little more with sugar. One resource that I love that you have is that little checklist showing all the different places sugar hides. So let's talk a little about that. Where might sugar be hiding?
I know, it's so crazy. And again, I'd never intended to write a book on sugar. After I wrote the Virgin Diet, it was like people were either confused. They're like, but it's honey. And I'm like, honey is sugar.
Right.
Sugar, but it's bees. It must be nice, or they were just addicted. And, we're hardwired to seek out sugar. And the more sugar we eat, the more we want. And the challenge is, like, in the 1900s, we were eating about 5 pounds per person of sugar, added sugars per year. We're at 150 pounds now.
Oh my goodness.
And think about, where do you go where you see like sugar cubes sitting on a bowl on the table, which used to be 50 years ago, you'd go into a place and they had a little like sugar, no more. So it's not that we're so much adding it in, it is that it's put into all of these supposedly health food stuff. It all started when fat was called out as to be this totally unhealthy thing, which is so crazy. And they pulled fat out. And so they added sugar in, and sugar was supposed to be fine. Well, we figured that out, that didn't work. But they then, that became part of what we have. You look at a lot of the products that are apparently healthy, and they'll say something like low in the glycemic index, and they'll use a sweetener like agave, which doesn't raise blood sugar, but absolutely creates insulin resistance and fatty liver and raises triglycerides and can make you hypertensive. Mm-hmm. So, you can lie on the labels. You can lie on a label and say there's no sugar added and use apple juice concentrate, which has more fructose than high fructose corn syrup, right? Or you can say it's light and they use artificial sweeteners, and you think that's fine. There's no calories, except artificial sweeteners disrupt the gut microbiome and make you more glucose intolerant, which creates insulin resistance, which makes you store fat, not burn it. All of these things are changing the way your body handles sugar. And remember, all carbohydrates except for fiber are sugar. It's just a matter of whether you're mainlining them on things like honey, agave, right? Or you're making it slowly from things like legumes and vegetables. And obviously we want to make it slowly, not mainline it on into our body, because when you're eating hits of carbs all day long and raising blood sugar and snacking, which everyone should stop snacking. But if you're snacking all throughout the day, you're raising blood sugar, you're raising insulin. If you're raising insulin, and you're keeping it up, because once you raise insulin, you drive sugar back into the cell, and now you're hungry and you can't access stored fat for fuel because your insulin's up, and now you're snacking all throughout the day. You're keeping insulin up. It's making you inflamed. It's starting to create insulin resistance, which will impact all your hormones, which will create something called PCOS, which will impact fertility. So there is no way to eat a high sugar diet and do this. If you like the single thing, if I was going to pick a couple things were key critical here, it's lowering your sugar impact. What I learned though is that most of us don't know what's sneaking in. So the first thing I have people do is a sneaky sugar inventory. The things like the sauces and the sodas and any drinks, you have to look at, they're suspect. Any sauces, salad dressings, even silly things like at a restaurant, the things they'll put wheat flour on meat. That's just crazy. But like you'll go to a restaurant and you'll say, I'm just going to have a salad. So you have a salad, but the salad has dried fruit, glazed pecans, glazed with sugar, dried fruit is candy, and then they'll use a raspberry vinaigrette. You just had more sugar than you would if you just had a sundae, but yet you're thinking you're virtuous, so then you can have dessert, right? And then you had iced tea, and you had an iced tea that was on a Palmer. You had half lemonade, half iced tea, so you got the sugar in that too, right? So you look at all of these things, and it's easy to creep in, and then exposure equals preference. The more it creeps in, the more you get used to it, the more you want more, and the more your body gets used to it. You're a sugar burner, not a fat burner. You're needing it all the time, right? And so you can't quit it cold turkey. Besides that just being mean, your body is now used to having that sugar incoming. So what I found is that if you do a tapering time of a week where you trade high sugar impact foods for medium sugar impact foods, and then you go through a total transition for a couple weeks where you pull all the fructose out, because the more fructose you eat, the better your body gets at transporting it to the liver and making fat, and really teaching your body low sugar impact foods and use savory and spicy and sour that takes the sweet tooth away, and using things like lemon juice and cinnamon that helps balance blood sugar and loads of fiber. If you do that, literally you can break through, get rid of your sweet tooth in a matter of weeks, but don't go cold turkey. It's too hard and it's not nice.
I love that. And I love how you lay this out beautifully in your book. I went through it and I just thought it was brilliant. So thank you for explaining.
Thank you. I did too. Like, to me, I thought that was my best work. And it's like, anyway.
I love it. So tell people, where can they find you? Where can they get your books? Where can they find you on social?
JJVirgin.com has everything on my social platforms. I have a fun healthy habits cheat sheet you can grab at jjvirgin.com/habits cheat sheet. But I'm on Instagram, just starting to build a YouTube channel, have my podcast and Facebook groups and all sorts of stuff. So we are a busy bunch over here.
Yes, I love it. And we'll put all that in the show notes, so it'll be really easy to find you and learn more about you. And so before we close out here, I would love any words of encouragement, any final thoughts that you want to leave our audience with.
Well, I love one of the things that my mentor said to me early on, and I'm so thankful she said this to me, because I don't know that I would have gotten through this if she hadn't said it. She always said, don't wish it was easier, make yourself stronger.
Yes.
It gets you out of that poor me, pity party victim mentality, because there are no victims, only volunteers. Ask the right questions, keep turning over the rocks, see yourself where you want to be, act as if, be your future self. And remember, you're stronger than you think.
Amen. Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much, JJ. It's been a true honor to get to talk to you today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, hang on just 1 second before you go. I want to make sure that you are aware of all of the amazing free resources that I have for you on my website at CoachKayla.com. From a fertility meal plan, a cycle syncing quick start guide, a holistic healing cookbook, as well as master classes, blog posts by me and some amazing experts in the fields of fertility, hormones, and nutrition. So many wonderful resources that will help you on your journey. And I wish there had been something like this when I was going through my 2 years of infertility, but there just wasn't. And so that's why I decided to create all of this for you. So make sure that you go and check it out and you take advantage of this plethora of support that I have provided for you. And spoiler alert, these were some of the same tricks and the same foods that I used to get myself pregnant, not once, but twice, even after my doctors said that I couldn't. So I know that these things work. So make sure you take advantage of that. And I cannot wait for you to be my next success story. So thanks, love. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in today to the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. Check out the show notes for today's episode at CoachKayla.com. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week.